How's it going, YouTube? It is January 6th, 2022. I am here in the woods. Got some notes with me. Subject of today's video is people watch too many shows and why you should watch less shows. So if you're interested in that or that sounds interesting to you, keep on watching. So anyway, this is actually take two. I filmed this video once before in Nicene Marks when I was on another hike. I'm on a bit of a hike today. Anyway, my point is that video was about 12 minutes long, and I'm hoping this one can be a little more succinct. So I have some notes, I wrote down some figures, and I'm just talking about how people watch too many shows. I really do believe that people watch way too much television. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be like some kind of boomer, oh, get off the idiot box. Well, I won't fall. Moving to a position where I'm closer to the camera. Anyway, people watch way too many shows, and they waste way too much time watching shows. So, to illustrate this point, I looked up some of the run times of popular shows. The first one that came to my mind was Squid Game, because that's the most recent show that was really like a home run smash. You know, everybody liked it. Everybody was telling me about it. I saw Squid Game memes. YouTubers I watched were posting Squid Game stuff. My girlfriend was talking about Squid Game. My friends are talking about Squid Game. Friends I hadn't seen in a long time talking about Squid Game. People telling me to watch Squid Game. Right, so I looked it up. Squid Game, it's got about 8 hours. I forget how many episodes, but it works out to a little over 8 hours of watch time. That's a whole, work day. That's one work day, at your job, working full time. That's a lot of time, and don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think that you can't watch any shows. That's fine, I watch a lot of YouTube myself. YouTube, I would say, is my television. I watch YouTube for entertainment, spend hours on there, right? It's still a waste of time to spend hours watching YouTube, flipping back and forth through videos. But I like to at least be conscious of the fact, like, I'm wasting time. None of this benefits me. I'm watching car crash compilation or what have you, some random video. I'm watching, boomer freak out in Walmart compilation or something ridiculous like that, and that's just a waste of my time. So I'd at least like to be conscious of it, because the flip side of that coin is I do watch stuff on YouTube that I'd like to say benefits me and isn't just pure enjoyment. I'm actually getting something out of it, like, videos on bushcraft. I've watched some videos on bushcraft, hiking, stuff like that, and I'd like to think that I get a little bit of knowledge out of there. Don't get me wrong, it's not as good as like sitting down in a college class, taking notes, being taught by a professor, but at least I'm getting a little bit, whereas shows like Squid Game, you really don't get anything from them. I haven't watched Squid Game myself, but just in general, I think a lot of high budget shows, you don't get much from them. I'll pull up my tea really quick. I'm sitting in a tree right now, by the way. So I tied my tea to this rope so that I could get to it without having to carry it up into the tree. I wanted to have my hands empty when I climbed. But anyway, I digress. So people watch way too many shows. The other most burning, glaring example for me is The Office. Now, I've watched The Office. I've watched it to completion. I'm talking about the American version here. To completion, I've watched some of the episodes multiple times. It's a bingeable show, everybody likes to, there's a lot of culture in America around binging The Office. I get it, right? But The Office is worse. It's a long show, there's many seasons. It has somewhere around 72 to 74 hours, it kind of depends on which version you're watching. 72 hours of runtime, right? And people take pride in like, oh, I've watched The Office so many times. I watch it over and over. Just, goodbye time, goodbye. Like 72 hours for a lot of people, unless you're truly working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's most people's work week, for people I know, people who are, young 20-somethings. They work maybe 36 hours a week, 72 hours is 2 weeks worth of work. Imagine one whole paycheck if you're paid bi-weekly. That's a lot of money, and you don't have to always be making money. I'm not saying that you need to only work, your wage job, right? But just, to think about the opportunity cost of it. Yeah, like calculate, okay, minimum wage for me in California, it's $14. $14 an hour, times 72 hours. actually have that here. That's $1,008, right? It's a lot of money. $1,008 you're basically wasting every time you watch The Office from start to finish, right? I took out 6% to roughly equate, your Social Security deductions. I know it's a little bit more than 6%, but $947 after taxes, right? Assuming you're low income, like most 20-somethings are, and you're not really getting any federal income tax, right? So on your first, whatever it is, 12 grand, I'm digressing again with the accounting little whatever you call it. Anyway, the exact numbers don't matter, but imagine, roughly $1,000 that you're wasting every time you watch The Office. And people take pride in like, oh, I've watched The Office 3 times, or, not to pick on The Office. That's just the most glaring example for me. There's plenty of other shows. Let me name some of the ones I've watched. Burn Notice, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead. They have tons and tons of episodes. Breaking Bad I started, but I never finished. It's a good show, but it's just too much time. I think Breaking Bad has like 7 seasons or something. I'm about halfway through. 3 seasons, at 20 episodes per season or something like that, 10 or 20, 45 minutes per episode, that's hundreds and like over 1,000 minutes, just, off the top of my head. 1,000 minutes I would have to waste just to finish Breaking Bad. And all I would get out of it, it's not like I'm going to learn how to cook meth watching that, Not that I should be learning that anyway, but, I'm going to get I can make references to Breaking Bad in a conversation. That's really all you get out of watching a show, is you can reference it. I know people like to think, oh, this show has morals, it taught me this, it taught me that, it makes me think deeply about human relationships, but they really don't. And that brings me to another point, which is that you can watch educational stuff, as I kind of alluded to earlier. You can totally watch, go on YouTube. Here's one for you. There's tons of lectures posted on YouTube. MIT OpenCourseWare, Stanford, and Harvard have similar things. They post lectures online, like full semester-long classes and whatever. So I calculated the hours for that. MIT Finance Theory with Andy Lo, one of the best, depending on who you talk to, I would say the best intro to finance, and it's not a beginner's intro, but one of the best intros to finance that you could have, that's going to introduce you to, derivatives, stocks, investing, finance, lending, interest rates. Lots of different financial concepts going to be introduced in this class. It's 15.401, Intro to Finance Theory, or something like that, Finance Theory 1, taught by Andrew Lo. It's 24 and a half hours of runtime, right? The actual lectures. So in the same time that you watch The Office, you could watch all of these lectures. I believe there's 20. All 20 lectures, you could spend twice, right, the amount of time that you spent watching, studying. So you could watch his, hour and 15-minute lecture. You could then spend 2.5 hours, thinking, Googling stuff that he said, figuring it all out. That would take up about 75 hours, right? Or roughly the amount of time it takes to watch the entire Office. After that, you're going to be, I chose a business-related finance course because that's what I'm interested in. But, after that, you're going to be extremely knowledgeable in finance, doing that. I've done that. I haven't, carefully watched all the lectures. I think there's actually a few in the end that I haven't finished. And I could probably go back and study and actually, Google things that I didn't understand and think a little bit more deeply about it. But nonetheless, from the, 10 to 15 hours that I've spent watching those lectures, it's benefited my life massively. I have a much better understanding of finance since then. And when I'm it's just good, And the other point I want to make about that is it wasn't like some sluggish thing. The lectures are from 2008. It's right when the mortgage crisis was beginning to unfold. It's like a history lesson at the same time. You get to feel, as silly as this may sound, you almost get to LARP as, a young man or woman going to MIT in the fall of 2008 and kind of watching the mortgage crisis unfold as you're trying to figure out life, and figure out what you want to do as a job. And it's being taught by one of the best professors in the nation, Andrew Lo, who's an amazing, energetic professor. All of this is completely free on YouTube, This is literally you just need an internet connection for that, right? But instead, people spend their time watching shows, you know, watching the newest show, watching CNN, watching the news, not to pick on CNN, but watching Fox News, you know, watching mainstream media. It's just a huge waste of energy, a huge waste of time. And, you know, maybe an interesting challenge for those watching the video, if you think that there's a show out there that's worth binge watching, because that's the main point here, is just don't binge watch. You know, if you, like me, want to watch YouTube or shows or whatever to kind of de-stress, distract yourself for a bit, that's fine, but just be conscious of it. So with that being said, if you think that there's a show that really is worth binge watching, that you benefit from, you know, watching it 8 hours a day, like you would benefit from watching MIT lectures 8 hours a day, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I really don't think there is. I don't think there's any mainstream show other than maybe documentaries, you know, something that's nonfiction that benefits you in any way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I am going to attempt to climb out of this tree without breaking my back or anything else. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you disliked it because you love watching your shows, please dislike it into oblivion. And other than that, if you like me, please subscribe. It was a pleasure talking to y'all, and have a nice day. Thank you. Peace.